Are you one of the 60 million adults who suffer from chronic pain? Are you one of the 13 million adults who takes an opioid for it? If only there was a plant that could help manage pain. I'm Catherine Goldberg. Welcome back to Senior Savvy Cannabis. The most frequent question I get through the website is, what can I do to manage my pain? This is obviously a complicated issue, but it's not impossible. I want to take today to go through really on the whole landscape of cannabis for pain management, because what works for one person might not work for someone else. Let's just take a brief look into the history of cannabis for pain management so no one thinks this is just like a new trend that we're pulling out of thin air. So, for the past 5,000 years, cannabis has been used in traditional medicine, well documented, starting with ancient China, then going over to ancient Egypt, then going to India, then to Greece and Rome, and eventually to America. But for lots of reasons that we're not going to discuss today, cannabis is no longer used as it used to be. So the way I want to break this down is that we're going to cover cannabis that gets you high, cannabis that doesn't get you high, cannabis that's smoked, cannabis that's ingested, and cannabis that's applied topically. We'll talk about cannabis that must be purchased through a legal shop, and we'll talk about the mail order hemp cannabis options that are available for you too. So I really kind of just want to lay it all out there for you, and you can feel informed to make the best decision for you. It baffles me that we have so much of the population, 1 in 4 people living in chronic pain, and cannabis is a last resort after all these pills. It's probably because people who treat their pain with cannabis spend less money on pharmaceuticals. So I am of the school of thought that we often have to take our own health into our own hands. And I'd like to educate you on the beginning of this. And please, of course, speak to your doctor. If you're going to change your regimen or add anything or take anything away, it's important. So let's talk about cannabis that's smoked. I'm going to ignore the sativa hybrid indica dichotomy for now. I'm going to say that THC works on the nervous system. It works on pain signaling and pain perception. CBD works on the immune system and inflammation. So they very much work together. If you notice, if you go into a legal shop, a lot of the strains have 29% THC, 0% CBD. I've made a video on why I think this is and what the consequences are. That's not to say a high THC wouldn't help someone's pain, but if there's a way that you can find a 1-to-1 ratio, that is usually a really good place to start. And because a lot of those 1-to-1 ratios don't come in flower, right? Unfortunately, I wish it did, but it doesn't. A lot of vapes are starting to do that. They're starting to catch on. There's usually one option for a 1-to-1 on the vape side of things. Kind of interesting. Let's go a step further into this smoking cannabis. Second most often question I get asked, right, is, okay, cannabis for pain management, but during the day, I can't be tired, I can't be stoned, I can't need to take a nap. This is going to come down to terpenes. I've made a few episodes on how terpenes modulate neurotransmitters and therefore have different effects in the brain. Some terpenes are very sedating because they work on GABA. It's like the brake system for the nervous system. And other terpenes are very stimulating because they have to do with dopamine and neuroepinephrine and, for learning, acetylcholine and things like that. Okay, so with that said, the main terpene that you're going to want to ask for, focus on, do your own research, is beta-caryophyllene. And beta-caryophyllene, unlike the other terpenes, which I just said modulate neurotransmitters to create their effect, beta-caryophyllene works differently. It actually works directly with the endocannabinoid system on the CB2 receptor that deals with inflammation and the immune system. So this basically directly locks into a system that's going to reduce inflammation by a cascade of events. It's not a magic pill. It's not like it's not going to solve everything, but if you're looking for cannabis for pain management, I'd start with beta-caryophyllene. What's interesting also about beta-caryophyllene, because it doesn't modulate neurotransmitters, is that it is neither sedating nor energizing. So, and cannabis usually comes with like trios or four, like terpenes that go together that sort of will have a say in its effect, along with some other things. So if you're looking for daytime relief, make sure the beta-caryophyllene terpene is paired with limonene, pinene, terpinolene. Those are all kind of on the energizing side of things. If you are looking for like nighttime relief, myrcene, linalool, that's more of like the stoned high. One last point on terpenes to mention, humulene. I said this in my last video that, you know, we all kind of know it as the terpene that like decreases munchies, decreases appetite, but it actually, through other signaling that's really cool, works on the inflammation system. So humulene isn't one of like the most common terpenes, but if you can find a strain with beta-caryophyllene and humulene, like you're onto something. So, okay. So I think that's like the beginning of at least the terpenes. Oh my gosh, this video might be a bit extensive. Okay. So now let's talk about, we talked about THC and CBD. We need to talk about at least one other minor cannabinoid that is becoming very popular now, for good reason. CBG. Okay. So CBG has been shown to have like really positive effects for people who suffer from Crohn's, IBS, IBD, stomach, gut issues. There are different ways to consume CBG products. Again, if you go to the dispensary and you look at the weed, there's not like a CBG rich strain. So you have a couple options. What I've heard people doing is that they'll purchase CBG hemp online and they'll mix that with their THC flower and sometimes CBD, and they really enjoy that effect. The other option is that companies like Level Therapeutics makes pills that are isolates of the cannabinoids. Some people have issues with this because there's no entourage effect, but that doesn't make it like not effective at all. This is just something you have to weigh. So anyway, so they make a CBG pill that I've heard is really good for gut health and surprisingly focus, even though that's not what we're talking about today. Okay, cool. Now we've talked about, so for those Level pills, you can buy those online and they'll mail them to you. The other option for specifically for pain management and mail order cannabis is that 1906, they make these Pain AM and Pain PM gummies. They are also hemp. They combine their cannabis with other herbs. And the one that they combine it with that I think they really like hit the nail on the head with it is Botswala. And it seems like, according to the people I work with, that cannabis paired with Botswala, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, I'll put a thing in the description, really helps reduce pain at a significant level. I've heard it's the only thing that works for a lot of people. And the thing is, with these Pain AM and Pain PM gummies from 1906, they are psychoactive. They're pretty strong, to be perfectly honest. So for the night ones, great. But if you're taking 1906 for the daytime, I would start with a half a gummy. I would start on a weekend just to see how it affects you. But I appreciate that they have those options, but also like just double check the active ingredients, because I think when you start mixing cannabis with other herbs and adaptogens and things like that, you just have to really make sure there are not going to be any issues. I've heard someone wrote to me recently and said that they had been using 1906 Focus Genius, and it like messed with their blood sugar levels. So again, please ask your doctor. Let's talk about one other dispensary only option, or homemade, farmer made, don't make it yourself, is RSO, Rick Simpson oil. This is sort of like the gold standard for pain management. However, in the past, RSO has been wildly psychoactive. It's wildly concentrated. The dose is the size of a grain of rice, and people are stoned for like 12 days when they take RSO for the first time sometimes, and that often turns them off. However, I did an interview with Emerald Bay Extracts. They make RSO not only in the oil sticky form, but in tablets, and they make CBD RSO, and they make CBG RSO. So I haven't tried this yet, but if you live in California and you suffer from pain in like a serious way, and you just like want results, and you don't want to be messing around picking the same strain and having them not have the strain the next time you go into the dispensary, Emerald Bay, I can link to that interview, watch it, make your own decision. But for people who are dealing with severe pain issues, that's often the answer. And the fact that they make these options that are not psychoactive, but still full spectrum, they may have solved something major here. Um, Great. Okay. And then I'll just end with one last thing. Um, Everything we've talked about so far is like either inhaled or ingested, but topicals are really amazing. So often, if you go into a dispensary and you're looking for a topical, if you can find a one-to-one, again, this is going to be the best for pain relief. Sometimes they don't make these. I make my own topicals. I'm going to tell you the recipe and you can make it yourself. It helps some people, it doesn't help others. It helps some people in a very profound way. Others say it just feels good. So again, every body is different, and everyone just needs something different. So the way I make it is I combine coconut oil with emu oil. I add a little bit of beeswax. Then I put in 1 gram of cannabis concentrate. And again, the concentrate that I buy at the store is like 90% THC, 0% CBD. I wish I could get a one-to-one concentrate, but people say this works. So, okay. Then the last 2 ingredients are menthol crystals, that I get the crystals and I like pound them up and then put them in. And then over the counter capsaicin cream, which is like what makes chilies hot. It's like a warming sensation. So people say that helps them. If you guys have specific questions and want to talk more about your particular pain, please reach out. I've been working with really nice people for over a decade, helping them navigate this landscape. I'm happy to call the dispensaries ahead of time so you don't have to schlep over there. And yeah, I just like, I see how chronic pain is not only debilitating for the person who's suffering, but for everyone around them. And I just hope that more people know that there's a safe alternative that has been used for over 5,000 years to help manage pain that may be worth trying. And it's pretty like cruel that it's not available to everyone. It depends on your zip code if you have access to this medicine. And then I'm not even going to get into the if your job drug tests you, because that's a whole other thing that we can discuss if we want to. But I hope this has kind of given you the landscape of all your options for cannabis. You can smoke if you want, you can vape if you want, you can eat it if you want, you can put it on your skin. Lots of options, lots of things to try. The people who get the best results are the ones that experiment the most. So thank you for sticking with me. And I hope your pain decreases in the very near future. I'm Catherine Goldberg. Bye.